I just want to point out that you haven't really gone to the East Coast, but actually to the West Coast of Africa, because I'm right now in Cape Town and in middle of davening, actually. And for that reason, I feel slightly discombobulated because I wasn't able to hear what happened before. We were in the middle of davening. Actually, we're still davening. But I hope as a chvarnish tarain ve'ayoven and sukkah, the sikha that we just heard now, and I was wondering, I don't know, was it just for the first time played now? I can't imagine that this Atzchav Chassid Nissen, but it's from the Sichas Hachim of Hilim that we ever heard from the Rebbe. And I'm not quite sure that I understand it even now, but the message is certainly clear that the Rebbe wants us to do something. And it's not stam that he wants it. It's not even a bakosha nafshis that the Rebbe wants it, but it's more than a bakosha. It's a tzav, and it's and this is it. There is, as the Rebbe said, there's nothing else. This is it. The shaila is, what is the it? And more importantly, wie tut man das? Tut als was man kann, weiß man am Bedarf. Aber wie tut man das? Und was tut man? If we would actually know precisely what, then I can't imagine then in 30 years we wouldn't have figured it out how Taka to do it and have done it. Elamai, it seems to be a little bit still from our perspective, from the Sheikhnim Batechaimer, that are still grappling with what it is, und derweil ist es auch getan geworden. And it's Sahimu Geshrei, was heißt? So I can just try and offer my perspective of was, and more importantly, vi. There's a sikha, the Rebbe writes, it's the sikha is in the second night of Pesach, Tavshin Lamed. That would be the last Farbrengen of the Pesach Farbrengens. And the Rebbe quotes a medrash. It's actually brought on in Sichas as well. The Rebbe quotes a medrash that the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim, that there were Yidden that were not mal themselves. They gehalten by them. Kenira is mer that they gehalten by them is it's nicht interessiert bechwa. And when Moshe Rabbeinu made his Korban Pesach, so the Eibishter made a ness, and he brought the ruches, it says from Gan Eden, or Akapanim, the reach of Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach was nidach b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, and they smelled this reach, nidbak b'hem, and they had a overwhelming tshuka to eat from Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach. So they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, "No, give us from your Korban Pesach." So first, Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, "Kol benecher le'yechalpe." I can't, because we're talking about people their only problem was not that they were not mal themselves, aber es noch gewähren weiter noch tiefer for them in that they were holding bnei necha. So Moshe Rabbeinu sagt. So the first thing they did is they all sent away their wives. The Rebbe learns Zahira, then Benegated, who are we talking to already? We're not talking about Yidden Tzadikim. We're not talking to Yidden Beinanim. We're not even talking Lecher in the Geder from Marash of Tevle. We're talking about somebody who was talking Mushke B'teich Tumas Mitzrayim in every respect, almost in every respect. Zogt Moshe, so their Yid, Kol Benecher Le'echel Bei, when Moshe said it to them, they right away listened to Moshe. Then they said to Moshe to give, so Moshe Rabbeinu said, after the Eved to send away, Avodim, Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, Kol Oro Le'echel Bei. And the Medrash continues, Miyad, everybody Shalofish is Charbe, and they were mal themselves, and Moshe Rabbeinu gave them from the Korban Pesach. The Rebbe asks two questions on this Medrash, ganz balabatische questions. The first question, I just said it a half hour ago. When you get to the Korban Pesach, you can't have a Korban Pesach, can't eat from a Korban Pesach upon which you were not a monui, that you were not one of those that was designated to eat from this particular Korban Pesach. That's why every family had to have its Korban Pesach, and had to be either entire family or two families or half a family. Only the people that were money on the Korban Pesach could eat from the Korban Pesach. So how could they eat from it? And then a second, I've got a question. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach was like everyone else's Korban Pesach. I said, one shepsela. One shepsela is a mugbul. There's a certain amount of meat that one gets from one shepsela. How could it be possible that every single one of those people should be able to have enough to eat a kazayas from that Korban Pesach? And you can't say, the Rebbe continues, that because it was before Matan Torah and Shiurim are halacha l'Moshe Sinai, before Matan Torah, because the inyan of Shiurim comes from the Korban Pesach, that it has to be a kazayas. So b'meila, it had to be a kazayas. How is it possible there should be enough kazaysim from Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach to give to all of these Yidden? And the Rebbe answers like this. As this is, and I paraphrase, this is Moshe Rabbeinu. What's Moshe Rabbeinu? When Moshe Rabbeinu made his Korban Pesach, is not pshat Moshe Rabbeinu had getracht wegen chas v'sholom wegen sich. Not that Moshe Rabbeinu had getracht about mishpachte, krevov, those menuyov on his Korban Pesach that are going to sit by his seder. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, who was he thinking about? He was thinking about those Yidden. Was an azay veit, an azay abgetrunken, azay. They don't care about the entire thing. And im kolzeh, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he made his Korban Pesach, he had them in mind. Those were the ones that he had in mind. Ubemela, they were menuyah, because Moshe Rabbeinu had them in mind when he was making his Korban Pesach. Ubemela, they were allowed to eat it. Then I fraged the Rebbe, but how was there Gashmis? How was there enough for them to have? So Moshe Rabbeinu says that the Medrash says there that is mamshach. It says beneged to the being malvin. That how was it talking about pale mamish? I haven't reconciled the steer. First said sholaf ishas charbe and mal themselves, but then it goes on to say, or maybe it's another day, that it was Moshe was mal and Aaron was perea, and Yeshua was mashke. He made the bracha, the bracha and gave the wine. Another day that Aaron was mal and Yeshua was perea, and Moshe made the bracha. But Akapanim, there were others there as well. This is Moshe wasn't with him; he wasn't there alone. He didn't come to Moshe, and Moshe was there by himself. But there was, and again I paraphrase: Anshe Moshe were with him. The Levium were with him. The Anshe Moshe, that by them there was no shayla b'negei to b'negei Korban Pesach. Why? They're Anshe Moshe. B'meila, so there was enough kazesim to be able to give to all of the Yid. Now, when you stop and just step back for a second and think, what is the Rebbe saying over here? The two kivunim here of what is Moshe Rabbeinu. Mitzad Moshe Rabbeinu, like pashut lahalacha kepshutoi. This inyan of einei nechel elo lemnuyav is not a chassidish hergish. It's a halacha lepeil. It's a din and teira. And Moshe Rabbeinu's kesher with Eden, and not with which Eden, even with which Eden, that are so abgeweitet and abgefremt, and that l'cher have absolutely no shayches im kolzeh in the halacha shebedavar. They are also menuyav pashut a designated on Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach. So, for those of us that have a question, is the Rebbe talking to me directly? And the Rebbe meint, ich gebe es über zu euch. Who is this euch? I have a chaver. He originally learned in nicht in unserer Meiset, and he came learning by us. It was Ervim Kippur and lekach. When the Rebbe used to give lekach on Ervim Kippur to everybody, when the time when the Rebbe was still giving Ervim Kippur to everybody. So he had a chaver that was noch in Litvish Yeshiva, and the Mangeret that convinced him he should come for lekach Ervim Kippur. The line was a long line. The line of lekach on Ervim Kippur was not like Pidyenis or even like Keshe Bracha that would go quick. But the line of lekach was it took a long time. Not a guzma, and this is in those days. We're talking in the early lamets, maybe the late chafs, but till Brooklyn Avenue was on Erevim Kippur the line, and the line was going very slow, and his chaver didn't want to stay. It was like it's Erevim Kippur. It's like it's still. He asked him, what you take from me, the lekach, and the Rebbe doesn't know who I am anyways. You'll tell the Rebbe my name and ask for lekach. What's the difference? I have to stay there. The Rebbe should see me. The Rebbe doesn't know me anyways. Und ding sagt mit dem, he should stay. And the Pali convinced him he should stay. Chaver was going first, and his chaver was behind him. So he heard when his chaver, the Rebbe used to give the lekach, and he would say l'shana teva mesukah. I don't know, teva l'shana teva mesukah, or just l'shana teva mesukah. Anyways, he gave him the lekach and said l'shana teva mesukah to his chaver, l'shana teva mesukah unechmein dir taka, and I mean you. The Rebbe means every one of us, me, you. Nobody should talk themselves into thinking that the Rebbe doesn't have him or her in mind. The Rebbe has every single one of us in mind. That's the first lesson what that I take from it. The second thing, the Rebbe says that the Medrash says Moshe Rabbeinu gave from his Korban Pesach. Pshat in his Korban Pesach, sagt the Rebbe, his Korban Pesach, whose Korban Pesach? Anshe Moshe. In factually, it wasn't that Korban itself, literally, and yet the Medrash says literally he gave from his Korban Pesach. The Rebbe that the Korban Pesach Anshe Moshe, the Aaron, Yeshua, Levium, Moshe's mention. Moshe's mention are Moshe. They are Moshe. And their Korban Pesach is Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach. And weiter. Halacha, it's a Medrash. The Medrash says it. I mean, the pashut shel mikra of the Medrash. That is Moshe Rabbeinu's Korban Pesach. Now think what that means from our perspective. When we're talking about every one of us that has to now is given this shlichus and given this achrayis and given this chayv and given this tzav, am darfen ton als what me can af tzara bringen Mashiach and dol lemata bepeil. Who are we? I don't want to say it out. Yeah, I mean, shluch Hashem may say, and it's, but if we think for a second, what the Rebbe is telling us, it's not that I'm chas v'sholem leaving you and get tutir dos. Look at the Simcha. The Rebbe says is the l'shenis that the Rebbe used. It's v'meila gibes chibur eich, and the first thought means chalela that now it's not the Rebbe's job, it's our job. And what's the next word the Rebbe says? Un af zu memar sein dem will ich geben. He says, I'm staying with you. I'm staying with you also now, right now. And I'm giving you tzedakah right now, right a moment after the Simcha, weitergegangen. mit euch zusammen, together with you. That the Rebbe is with every single one of us, and not in a, I don't want to say not in a ruchnistic way. I mean, say not in a metaphysical, theoretical, no, pashut, kepshutoi. Now, the Werte is eine Shene, but like how does it happen? First of all, because to say a eigene Gedanke in such a gathering that it's not only it says that Jivet Fus are lederis leilam and da handelt sich I don't know, it's even more than Litfus because but anyways, l'chai. I'm not sure. I think it was Tavshin Chav Ches or Tavshin Chav Tes. Achron Shel Pesach, after the Talucha, this is the first night of Achron Shel Pesach, when the Elam came back from the Talucha, or the beginning of the Elam came back from the Talucha. The Rebbe came from upstairs. He was still upstairs by the Sud, and he came down. So the Rebbe said, in the after the Talucha were times, the Rebbe speak of a bracha. The Rebbe came down the stairs, and the Ganei Natachten, so I think it was like going down the stairs. So the Rebbe looked at the Elam and said, zein bana olim. A reference, of course, to the Haftarah of Achron Shel Pesach, that where the Novi says that B'Shas comes Bias HaMashiach, so they'll go over the Nahar. How? It says v'hidrech b'na olim. They'll go over b'na olim with shoes. Now, actually, there's I think it's one of the last letters that the Rebbe Leivik sent to the Rebbe for Pesach. But the Rebbe had sent the Rebbe Leivik shoes, which he knows to send then shoes was to get shoes was not a small thing in any respect. In any case, the Rebbe in Rebbe Leivik Kedarke writes back to the Rebbe with a whole beer in the derech of Rebbe Leivik in Olim and what it means, and benamed it v'hidrech ben Olim. The Kabbalah is mimeni v'holo legamri. It's also in shakradoshu ba'rabim, but just an understanding what pshat v'hidrech ben Olim. What's this lashon in Pashtus? Now you find the Olim in Benegeti Yetzias Mitzrayim, Bias HaMashiach. It's not an uncommon concept, although you don't see it in other places. The first thing is by Moshe Rabbeinu, Shal Na'alechem Me'al and when it comes to Yetzias Mitzrayim, Zok Devish to Na'alechem Biraglechem. The Haftarah of the first day of Pesach is the Malas of Yeshua. Weiter Shal Na'alechem Me'al and V'hidrech Bana Olim. What's this in the Olim? See this. It's in the Maimarim. The inyan of an Olim is that it separates a person from the ground. And so there's two levels here. For ein zein, when you talk about regular ground, that you can become nizik from it, there's dirt, there's stones, there's blood. So then the Olim is to protect, is to protect you from the ground. Baruchnius, the Olim is pshat, that even though you're going to Elam Hase, and we hear Takadola Mata, in Welt, Dalin Yanim, or even when we're in Welt, we have to stay out, but noch a bissel hecher for Welt. And you have to be protected from Welt. What's the protection from Welt? That's the Olim. Lidach, when we're talking about Admas Kaidesh, when it's a holy place, there you don't need the separation. On the contrary. So there, it's Shal Na'alecha Marat Lecha. That's the pshat. You go into the Eil, the same thing. Why? Because they're on the contrary, you don't want a separation from Admas Kaidesh. You want a connection to Admas Kaidesh, which then doubles the question. If that's the case, why, when it comes to Bias HaMashiach, Punkt Danten sagt man as v'hidrech bana Olim. Meil by Tzis Mitzrayim, it's a Shalna Lechem Barak Lechem, because they're going out into Elam Hasas. They wish to say, Taka going out, Taka the Gulub Mitzrayim. You're going out, aber first into Midbar, and then into Eretz Neshevis, but it's a Eretz, and there is the Chash of Cheles, so you have to have an alliance to protect you from it. But here now we're going into Eretz Yisrael, and Bias Mashiach and the Gula Mitzvah Shlema. So what do you need to shall not? What Dafka v'hidach on the Navi's Madrash Bana Olim, and that's what the bracha was the Rebbe Gittons. We shall zein v'hidach Bana Olim. Again, forgive me if I'm going off the reservation, but I there's the well-known story. I'm sorry, I don't call it. Was the state was every night. But the Maisa Yadua with the Malachim that came on the morning after Akofis into Gan Eden, and they found their Epsmodnezach and Shich and pieces of shoes and soles and heels and straps. And they didn't know what was Sidus, what was Tutzavda. And they brought them all to Malach Mechol, Malach Mechol Kilach, when it's a Masberg of what this is. And I think it says that Malach Mechol made from them or the Baal Shem Tov laughed when he told the story. They made from the manolim, the kester that's normally used, made from the tefillos of the Yidden. They made from these tziris and shich he made. Now stop for a second and think about this story for a second. Exactly whose shoes were laying there in Gan Eden the morning after Hakafos? The shoes of the Gvirim. The shoes of the Gvirim. They could dance a whole night in their shoes, and nothing would come off, and nothing was strapped. The Balayesek right there, he has boots, and the boots. I feel that Anoshim Chshum, there are bonim, and it does. Weiter, I say, this again with normal Shich, even with Raviv al big day, with one spot is a terrible thing. Can you imagine what it means for a Talmud Chacham to go with Tzilis and Shich? So who's Shich? The sheikh, whose shoes were laying there, left over there, fell apart there, and whose sheikh were they? It was the sheikh of those people that Nebach Aniyim Mudukoim, that when they would go in the streets, they had the kind of shoes that Lavdafke separated them from the blotter. The blotter kicked in. It's lavdafka that when they walked over a stone, it didn't hurt. The beferish did hurt. Why? Because there was a hole in the shoe. It wasn't that they had a mechitza between them and Elam Haza, but it was the kind of person that his mechitza between him and Elam Haza is given ganz schwach. As they schwach, am mit a bissel tanzen, and the whole shoe comes apart. So what were they dancing for? What did they have to dance for? There was some mushkan Elam Haza kashicham normale. Elam Haza tavzeiz azefil gepel that mit alle Sachen. He went through Rosh Hashanah, he went through Yom Kippur, and he went through Sukkot, and he went through Shmini Atzeres, and Hachem. Das in Im Koseh the hefsek zwischen Emet Elam Haza is gor akleine, and it bothered him. And it hurts him. Elam Haza hurts him. It was hast du zu tanzen. What are you dancing for? Es gekommen zum Chastera. Es kommt zu Hakofes. Man heißt tanzen, tanzt man. And not just Yates is zein to tanzen. Not just to, I'll dance. No, getanzt the ganze Nacht. A whole night long he was dancing. Why? Weil man der Rebbe tanzt man. Und nicht stamm tanzen, nor besimcha gdeilav in the floor. It hurts. Ich halt mich bei deinem. You want to know how to get by all of that? Tanz, besimcha. Sei freilach. The last words the Rebbe said, and soll sein, besimcha, after those mavildige words that we heard. In the learning that Rebbe said, besimcha v'tuv levav. It's almost like just direct opposite. It was for most of us. I don't want to talk about anyone else. For me, it was punkt the hepech of simcha. It was punkt the hepech of tuv levav. So I have nein, dafke besimcha und dafke betuv levav. And that's how you'll be able to accomplish it. And that's the only way that you'll be able to accomplish it. Adastan take b'simcha, adastan b'tuv levov. And that'll give us the ability taka to do it. We have no brera. Absolutely, there isn't. We have one thing to do. Zein freilach. And if we'll do it mit a freilachkeit, and we'll do it mit a lebedikiet. Why? Because the Rebbe told us to. And the Rebbe gave it to us, and the Rebbe is with us, and we have every reason, therefore, to put aside tziris initiative, and that's what the Novi says. It's an interesting thing. If you take a look in the Psukim, when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha, na'alecha me'al raglecha, na'alechem b'raglechem." Again, by Yeshua na'alcha me'al raglecha. It's talking about where the shoe is on Moshe's foot, on Yeshua's foot, on the Yid's feet. But doesn't say about anybody's feet. He's not talking about feet. He's talking about the shich from Gan Eden. Those shich, those going besimcha even when there's seemingly no reason to be besimcha, to be freilach and so tanzen, even though Begashmi is the Yitzhahara has 1,000 reasons to tell you why it's not like that. Und imchol ze tanzt du, imchol ze bist du freilach, with that freilachkeit, with that betochen, and with that emunah, and with that absolute certainty that the Rebbe geht uns ort herausführen von der finstere Golus und uns hereinführen in die Geula Amitas Vashlema, und das wird es Tage peilen und soll das Tage sein, Tekef und Miyad Mamish. L'chaim, l'chaim.